So how in the world do you clean a deer head without having to take it to a taxidermist? You're like me, you don't want to spend a fortune, but you don't mind getting your hands a little bit dirty either. So you just want to avoid ending up with something like this, and instead create something like this. Something that will get them out of the box, put them on display to preserve those memories for a lifetime. Well, today I'm going to show you how to do just that. Like anything else, there are several different methods you can use to clean a deer head and create a European skull mount. And each of them comes with multiple different pros and cons. But after researching and learning and actually trying different things over the past few years, I personally think that this method is the most effective for those who are just wanting to do a few of these each season at home without breaking the bank. So that's the process that I'm going to show you today. This isn't the right way to do it. This is just the way that I do it. But first, let me walk you through what you're actually going to need to have in order to do this. Some of these tools you'll probably already have laying around the house, others you may have to buy, but either way, I've got all the links to the products that I use personally in the description below so that you can purchase whatever it is you need. And I've broken the process up into 4 parts. That's just kind of the way that I do it, the way that I see it. And I've organized the tools that you'll need for each part. So here we go. For starters, and as you might can guess, one of the most important tools you can have is a really good sharp knife or a set of knives. The options out there are endless, but I've found that a good set of fixed blade knives like these from Outdoor Edge works fantastic. I use these for a majority of the process, and of course I just make sure that I'm constantly keeping that blade sharp. But also, I like to have a replaceable blade option like this one. This is a Havalon Titan. I like this one because it's got a fixed blade and a replaceable blade option built right in. I use both the 60A and the 70A blades. They're razor sharp, they work great. The drawback is that they do get dull pretty quick, and so when you're cutting through that hide and a round bone, it can get dull real quick. And so typically I use this just for those really small detailed areas. The majority of the time I stick with the fixed blade. Then I recommend having, a box of disposable gloves. And of course, you'll need some heavy duty trash bags for all the hide and the bone that you'll be removing. All right, well, once all the skin has been removed, step 2 is to boil the head. That's the method that I use. And this helps loosen up all the remaining muscle and tissue. It's efficient, it's quick, it's cost effective. That's why I do it this way. But first, you're going to want to cover the base of those antlers, and so you're going to want some plastic wrap, something like this, preferably about this size. This is like a 6-inch roll, but it's on a handle, which comes in super handy when trying to wrap the base of those antlers. And then you're going to want a little bit of electrical tape to wrap real tight around the base and different parts of the antler to help hold all that on during the boil process. Well, then you're going to need a large pot, a pot that's large enough to hold a head. It needs to be big enough so that you can submerge the head as well as the base of those antlers down in the water. I recommend using a pot that you can dedicate to this process because it gets pretty nasty. I wouldn't share this with anything you're doing in the kitchen. Your spouse will appreciate that. But I also recommend some of this OxyClean for the boiling process. And as far as the whitening, it does help with the whitening a little bit, but it also helps break down the tissue a little bit more, helps a little bit with that degreasing process, and then honestly, it just helps it smell a little bit better. Well, then you're going to need some kind of outdoor burner with a flame, one that you can control. And it needs to be something that will get hot enough to boil a large pot of water. I've had this turkey fryer for several years, still working great. You probably have one. Of course, you'll need a full tank of propane. You don't want to run out halfway through the process. Prepare ahead of time for that. All right, well, once you're done boiling, it's time to clean off the remaining muscle and tissue. And for this, you'll start with just a couple of simple tools. You'll need a large flathead screwdriver as well as some kind of drill. Doesn't have to be fancy. About a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch paddle bit. Something similar to this. Most people would have these things laying around the house. Now, what you may not have is a pair of locking hemostat forceps, something like this. I didn't know what these were called until I looked them up. These work so well. I used to try to use like some needle nose pliers, but found that these work so much better for those hard to reach places, getting that meat and the extra tissue and cartilage and all those things out of those hard to reach places. And then I highly recommend some kind of waterproof bibs and overalls, something like these. I used to just put some of my camo rain gear on, but realized that I was ruining my really good hunting clothes, and so an inexpensive set like these from Carhartt, they've made a huge difference. And then of course you're going to want some rubber boots of some sort. And finally, you're gonna need a pressure washer. You may already have one that works. The main thing to understand is that you don't wanna overdo it on the amount of pressure that you're spraying with. I found that an inexpensive electric pressure washer like this one is absolutely perfect for this kind of thing. It's super simple. It's not real expensive. It's easy to operate. You don't have to keep it, gassed up or anything. But use what you've got. You can always add some of these things later on to your arsenal. The last step is the whitening process. So once you've got the head completely clean and dry, one option is to just leave it like it is, but make sure it's very clean and very dry. I mean, if you prefer it that way, leave it like it is. I like the bone to be nice and white. I think it's an awesome contrast with the natural coloring of the antlers. And so in order to get the bone really white, I use hydrogen peroxide 40 volume. You've probably seen other guys use this. I do it just a little bit differently. This is something you typically have to find in a beauty supply store, but I've always been able to find it by the gallon on eBay. It usually runs between 30 and 40 bucks with shipping. But the thing is, I can usually manage to do 5 to 6 skulls with just 1 gallon. And so if you're only doing 1 to 2 a season, I mean, it should last you at least a couple of years. But also for this process, you're gonna need a pair of heavy duty rubber gloves that are chemical resistant. Again, I've got these linked in the description below. Not terribly expensive, but I'm just telling you, super helpful. You do not want to get the peroxide on your skin. It does burn a little bit and it will bleach your skin for sure. And then you're just going to need a simple container like this. These are just some that I had laying around the house. I had 10 or 12 of these, and so I've been using these for several years as well. And these fit literally one head perfectly during this whitening process to catch all of the runoff. This is where I leave it during that process. All right, well, once you've got all your tools together, it's time to put them to work. If you want to see me walk through the entire process of actually cleaning a skull myself, you can watch this video and you'll see exactly what I do. Thanks for checking this out. See you guys in the next video.